In the video, an interesting twist to my next phone. Um, Wacko Guy Watch. He put a comment on my video saying, "You are definitely between a rock and a hard place. I agree about not wanting a Windows mobile device, but unfortunately you won't get everything you want," which obviously I understand. If the governing factor in your decision is finances, then the finances must govern your decision. Maybe you should look into that new email device, Peek. Google it. And Wacko Guy Watch, if you are watching this, I did Google Peek. I absolutely love the device. But there is one thing that people do fail to consider, and I'm not blaming them, okay? It is not your fault. A lot of people look at this factor as an afterthought. These glasses, in case anybody's wondering, why the heck do you wear these? I am visually impaired. In fact, I'll show you. Well, I guess I can't show you in this weird lighting, but maybe I can. See my right eye there? There's no pupil in it. Anyway, I cannot see a darn thing in my right eye, and when I do not have my glasses on, my left eye is 100%. Everything is all blurry. As such, the very first thing I ask myself when I look into a device is it accessible? Now, with the Blackberries being 14-point font maximum, that's not enough. The rule of thumb for somebody who has a visual deficiency like myself is 18-point or higher. Depending on various factors, I can cope with anything between 16 and 18, 24. When it comes to reading papers, I prefer 24 so I don't have to lean over so much. Or, if that's not an option, I would prefer vocal output. In other words, having the device speak to me. Like my Mac, for example. Here, I'll show you. Turn it on here.
VoiceOver on. iMovie. Window. iMovie. Is it accessible? Scroll. VoiceOver off.
Okay. So, that's what I mean. Basically, if I can't see it, can I have the item talk to me? For example, I just turned on the screen reader for my Mac and it announced that I was in iMovie, announced that I was recording this particular video. But like that, that's what I'm talking about when I say, is it accessible? Now, I emailed Peek. The closest thing they could give me to accessibility was bold font. That's it. Bold font. Now, perhaps a screen magnifier might help. Now, this doesn't have to be a software package. I've seen in various adaptive products catalogs where the one in particular, I believe it was MaxiAids, has a magnifier that can fit over the top of any or most name brand cell phones at the time, and it was able to magnify things at least 4 times or so. So it doesn't have to be an expensive solution, but just the fact that it's offered, because something like Peek, for example, there are a lot of people in the community of people who are blind or have low vision who are not particularly computer literate. Yet, in this day and age, you cannot get by without email. Professors email you. Your bank emails you. You might have transactions online. Your boss emails you, especially if you travel a lot. If you're a business person who travels a lot, you may know a lot about business. You might not know a lot about tech. Email has become increasingly important, and I'm I can see the day where phones as we know them will become obsolete, and we will be replacing them with video phones that are hybrid email devices and such. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, it is because of this fact that I think Peak would make an extraordinarily wonderful device. But we need to make it accessible. And for anybody who recommends anything to me, not that I don't welcome your recommendations, I certainly do. But we have to step back for a moment and we have to say, if I were visually impaired, if I couldn't see the screen very well, would I be able to use this? And it basically comes down to a question of whether or not the company is rooting for you. A lot of companies are certainly doing their part. Apple has done a good job. Microsoft, I think, needs to improve. That's just me, okay? The open source community, they've done a wonderful job with Orca. Speak Up for the terminal under Linux. So, a lot of mainstream communities are taking it upon themselves to make things more accessible. But still, the bulk of the accessibility has to fall on the specialist markets. And I'd like to see more of the accessibility in the mainstream. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to spend a fortune to make something accessible. If all you need is simple magnification, just put a screen magnifier or offer a screen magnifier that we can put on top of the device's screen, to make it bigger and easier to see. Now, some of you might be saying, well, why not go ahead and use your magnifier and monocular? Well, picture this. You're carrying a briefcase, and you're walking down the street trying to catch a subway, and you have to keep your eyes focused on the road ahead because your depth perception is off, and you cannot see any drop-offs, so you need to be aware of that. So and on top of that, like I said, you're holding the briefcase. You cannot take your eyes off to focus on the device with a little magnifier. You want to be able to do what the average person would be doing, which is to simply quickly glance at the device while you're walking. And with a magnifier over the top, it would make it very easy to do. Or, like I said, you just put in a software utility that adjusts the fonts or something that gives speech output. But I would like to see more accessibility efforts from the mainstream companies. I'm not saying that they're not doing a good job. I think they're doing a great job, but we could certainly improve. There's always room for improvement. But yeah, when everybody recommends a device to me, I always look at accessibility first, because if I have to put my nose up to the device to see it, I'm used to it, but I would like to be able to stop doing that. And like I said, holding the device in one hand and magnifier in the other, can you imagine what that would be like, especially for somebody with mild cerebral palsy, which is what I have, incidentally, in addition to being visually impaired. But yeah, I'd like to see more accessibility on the mainstream counterparts. I think you guys are doing a great job. We could see some improvement. For example, speech output. The cell phone companies are doing speech output primarily for driving modes, but they're seeing it more and more as an accessibility move. Good job. I just like to see this expand. More mainstream companies putting accessibility on the list of tasks when developing something. And the trouble is that a lot of times, a lot of business CEOs may not see people with disabilities as market revenue. Let me assure you that they are. You make your devices accessible, we will certainly come running, especially if you have it at a cheap price, because we're used to high prices in the community. We could certainly use a price break in this economy, I guarantee it. But again, like I said, wonderful job so far. Keep it coming. There's always room for improvement. Keep up the good work. Thank you for watching, everyone. Comments are welcome, and have a nice evening.